It's part of a shop update, and one more thing that I got from that place that had the auction is this vise. It is a Holland Vise. It's a number 16. It was made in Erie, PA. Now, if any of you watch Adam Booth, you know that Adam is into Reed vices, and Reed was another manufacturer out of Erie, PA. Reed also made piping equipment. Mainly they were noted for four-wheel cutters to cut piping with, but they also made other things, pipe vices, die, stuff like that. But I had never heard of a Holland before. Now, I did some research on it, and apparently they were bought out by another company, and I'm not really sure when, but I think they were bought out pre-World War II. So I have to assume that this vise is, I don't know, probably the 40s, 50s era. The company that bought them out, I don't know whether they kept branding their names is Holland, and so it could be post being bought out, but I'm assuming that that they would have changed the name probably afterwards. But I did some research on it, and apparently they're fairly rare, but I didn't buy the vise because of that. I bought the vise to use. Now, there's, again, I've talked about this before. You go on the internet and you have no idea of what's true, what's not true. There was a guy on the internet that was saying that he had one of these Holland vices, number 16, and it weighs 350 pounds. The thing does not weigh anywhere near 350 pounds. So, again, you've got to take what is on the internet with a grain of salt. Let me just, it's kind of almost all the way open, and it opens to 10 inches. It has 6-inch jaws on it, and if I was to guess, I would say the thing probably weighs in the neighborhood of 100, 120 pounds. The handle is an original. As a matter of fact, I think it was part of one of those old lug nut wrenches. They cut the end off because look at the end where it was flat. It was probably, that's to pop the hubcap off of. It looked like it was bent down here where it would have looped around in the socket or box end portion of it for the lug nuts would have been there. So, Adam, if you're watching, maybe you can get somebody to forge me a new handle too. Just kidding. Again, I didn't get it because it was old. I got it because I wanted a vise. I wanted a vise that I can put in the shop someplace. Now, I have vices. I have a vise over here. I have another old vise over on my wooden workbench. But I want a big vise, and I want to be able to move it to different locations in the shop. You know what I mean? I'm always coming from the other end of the shop over here to use this vise, and or the other vise, always moving around. I would like a movable vise. Now this thing is heavy, very heavy. So what I'm thinking about doing is I have one of these truck rims, a 22.5-inch truck rim. It's a steel rim. I don't think I'm going to use them on the haul truck. I've got this piece of welded pipe. Now, most flanges and piping system are cast iron, except for welded flanges, which are steel. And that's what this is. It's got welded flanges on it. So everybody would first think that it's a cast iron flange, but it's actually a steel flange. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean this piece up. I've sat part of the vise on there, and it actually turns out to be a good working height. So what I'm going to do, clean it up, clean the spool piece up, going to weld the steel flange to the top of the rim, and then I'm just going to mount the vise on top of this flange. I don't think I'm going to cut it off. I'm not going to get fancy about it. Part of the flange is going to overhang the base a little bit, but I don't really care. I'll clean it up, weld it up, paint it, and put it there. Now, if for some chance it isn't heavy enough, and it is fairly heavy, I'm not sure the weight of them rims, but if I was to guess, I would say probably 50, 60 pounds. The spool piece is probably about the same amount. So I've got 120, then you've got another 100, 120, maybe more in the vise. So we're talking probably close to 300 pounds on it. So, but the point where I was going with it, if it isn't heavy enough in the base isn't big enough, and it isn't heavy enough, because if you get long stuff in the vise, it could want to tip. I can always flip it over and maybe weight the bottom of it somehow, whether it be concrete, whatever it is. I could weight the bottom of it. But anyways, that's what my intentions are. You know, as long as I was talking about vices, I told you in that clip that I had a vise over on the wooden workbench, and apparently, you know, I get vices just to use vices, but apparently this thing is pretty rare too. It's a Jacobson machine vise. It was made in Warren, Pennsylvania, and it was patented in 1901, and it's called a friction vise. As you see, it rotates, and instead of having a locking collar on the rotation, what you do is when you clamp something down into the vise, it stops it from rotating. But again, you know, I just use this vise to hold things, to clamp things, to use it to work. It doesn't matter to me that it's old and maybe worth some money. But anyways, I just wanted to show that to you. So I'm over here at the tool bits that I bought at that auction, and there's a case that's numbered, lettered with the different sizes on it. Just what I'm going to do is, instead of trying to figure out what I've got as far as sizes goes, whether I have each size at in 64ths that go between ½ inch, not including ½ inch, but from ½ inch, above ½ inch on up to, and I'm going to say it's 2 inch. Then from 2 to 3 it jumps. But I kind of want to figure out what I have as far as sizes goes. And instead of laying it out on a table, like on a piece of cardboard on a table, and sizing, having to write down every size on that, I just figured that I would take them, as long as they were out of the cabinet when I brought them back, take them, trying to figure out what the size is. Now, there's dust and dirt on the things, and what I've done is just take a wire brush and just buff off the size part of it. And some of the smaller ones, it's kind of hard to see, so I use my magnifying thing and just kind of look at it. because again, it is in 64. Sometimes it's hard to see whether, you know, like if it goes 23/64 or 27/64. What I'll do after this though is take them and put them in Evapo-Rust to clean them up, and a lot of it is just dust. Now there is some rust, and I'll kind of show you on this one how it buffs off, but it buffs right off and cleans right up. But again, sometimes it's hard to see. What I'll do is put them in a take them all out, put them in Evapo-Rust. Well, and while I'm doing that, I will redo this cabinet. What I'm going to do is I plan on taking it apart and then painting it and getting it back together and figuring out what I'm going to do for a stand and put it over by the drill. So I'm continuing to work on it, and as you can see by my hand, the drill bits are just very dirty. So probably what I'm going to end up doing is putting them in some kind of a solvent to clean them first before I put them in the Evapo-Rust. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or just maybe a bucket of water and just kind of wash them off first, and then but I will figure that out. But again, they're just dirty. One of the things that I did notice is the bins in the shelf itself are actually sized so that they go from small to larger, so that you can actually fit two of the drill bits side by side and then stack them up in each little bin. Now, the only issue with that is apparently they're sized for certain Morris tapers, because I've got a couple of them where the taper is larger, the Morris taper is larger on the bit, and it won't fit side by side. Not because of the drill bit size, but because of the Morris taper size. But I'm continuing to work on it. I'll bring you back. Okay, so I've got all the drill bits put away, and kind of what I'm doing now is unwrapping these new bits. Now, this is what they call a core bit, and I've talked about this before. That's kind of misnamed. If it was a core bit, actually, that's what they call it in metalworking. They call this thing a core bit because it has no like starter to start a hole on it. You have to pre-drill a hole bigger than the size of that center section to use this thing in. But if it was truly a core bit, what it would do is leave a core in the center, like a concrete core bit, or like a annular cutter that they use in a mag drill. But anyways, these things are brand new. This one's 1 3/8. They are core bits. I haven't opened them all up yet, so I'm not sure. That one's a core bit. I had actually opened that one up before. I'm not going to bore you with the details of sorting the rest of them out or anything like that. Here's a picture of the drill bits after I cleaned them and put them through Evapo-Rust. So if you want to see how I did it, continue on from here. Okay, I'm over here at the bench by the lathe, and this is where I have used the Evapo-Rust in the past. If you've seen any of my other videos or old shop videos, you know I did a comparison on Evapo-Rust and another product, Metal Rescue it was called. But anyways, I had came over here. Just had gone out and bought another gallon of Evapo-Rust. Got it at Tractor Supply. They only had 1 gallon, so I came over here, took the large container that I will be using for the drill bits, poured whatever I had left from a smaller container in it, and then we'll add the new Evapo-Rust into it, and to start cleaning up the drill bits. Now there's a process that I'm going to go through before I put the drill bits in the Evapo-Rust, and that is I want to get them cleaned up beforehand so that I don't really contaminate the Evapo-Rust or the Evapo-Rust liquid with a bunch of dirt and grime that is on the drill bit. So I will do that first and show you that process briefly. So what I've got here is just got a bucket of water. I've got some dishwashing soap that I'm going to put in it. I have this dishwashing soap laying around the shop because I use it to kind of lubricate tires when I'm going to put them on the rim. But what I'll do is I'll just put some soap in the water, and I will start washing the bits off with a brush. Okay, so I've got a brush. What I'm going to do is just start dropping some bits in there. I've got a piece of cardboard down here that I'll lay the bits on while I'm done with them. I'm going to start from small and work larger. I'll only be able to do some of them at a time because okay, so I had somebody show up, and I didn't film putting the first batch in, but this is kind of what they looked like beforehand. Some of them a lot better than others, but I'll show it to you when they come out, the first batch. Okay, here's the first batch of drill bits out of the Evapo-Rust. Now what I'll do is I'll take them over to a wire wheel and just clean up a little bit. What I did is took them onto the Evapo-Rust. You gotta rinse them off in water, so I just filled the bucket with water, rinsed them off in it, and dried them off on my wife's towel. I don't think she'll be upset. But there they are, first batch. Okay, so here's the bits after I buffed them. I just put them on a wire wheel, buffed them off. So this is post Evapo-Rust. After the Evapo-Rust, I just soaked them in water to rinse them off, dried them off with a towel, and took them over to the buffing wheel and just cleaned up the taper part of it. Now probably at some point in time what I'll do is I'll spray the shanks or the drill bit actually with WD-40. Don't really want to get a lot of it onto the taper. I mean, I can get it on the taper and just have a cloth near the drill press and wipe it off before I stick it into the drill press taper. But anyways, there it is. One of the things that I picked up, cool UPS guy, sometimes I leave the door of my shop unlocked, and when I'm just going to be running over someplace. But what he did is he dropped these 2 packages off, these 2 boxes. What I got is some more 3-inch binder straps for the trailer to haul stuff with, and I also got some edge protectors. Now what these do is go over the corners and you run the straps up through them. They're for foreign straps, but it really won't make any difference. It doesn't matter. They work on smaller ones. Go over the edges. When you have sharp things with these nylon straps, sometimes it cuts into it. So you put these edge protectors on them. I just picked up some more of them. I had some, but they get lost a lot. These are pretty cool because you can run the strap up through it and it won't get lost. If the strap comes loose, it won't fall off or get loose, get lost. If the strap gets loose, the edge protector won't get lost. But anyways, just a couple of things. I got them from a company named Truck and Tow. He's in a catalog also along with it. Truck and Tow. They have everything that you might need. Chains, binders. I don't think they sell lights, flags, signs, stuff like that. I do not think these sell tarps. I usually get my tarps through someplace else. But anyways, that just came in. I wanted to make sure that I had enough edge protectors because I've got a load of racking stuff that I have to go down to Nashville, Tennessee to pick up. And what it is those wire grates that go into rack where you can stack pallets or boxes on top of these wire grates. I'll put a pick and pick up over there and you can see it. But I just wanted to make sure that I had enough edge protectors because on wire grates, sometimes the wires, they cut the wires off and the wires can protrude out a little bit from it and poke into the nylon strap. So make sure I have enough edge protectors for it. Bring you back. One of the things I just did was plug this rod oven and it does work. I've got to clean it out, and probably what I'm going to do is put the rod in there. I don't know whether I need to keep the rod doesn't need to be kept warm all the time. Maybe I'm just going to store the rod inside of the thing. I don't know, maybe once a week. Warm it up. It's pretty thick, pretty well insulated, pretty solid closing door, tight door. So if I had the rod in it, heated it up, got the moisture, controlled the moisture from it, it would probably stay dry in there just the way it is. So I'll probably use it more for rod storage. Maybe once in a while turn it on for an hour or something just to get the any moisture out of there. But that's what I'm going to do with it. Okay, in my last shop update, I talked about getting this welder. It's a Lincoln Ideal Arc 250 welder. And I had just talked about getting it. I haven't done anything about hooking it up, but one of my viewers asked me if the thing was single phase or three phase, and I said it was three phase. And the reason why I said it was three phase is because this is a wire that's attached to it, and there's a ground and then three leads, a red, a white, and a black. And that's why I said it was three phase. And then I started thinking about it. And I don't know why I came over here and looked at this, but here we go. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it. 230 480 volt. It's hard to see, but it is single phase. Now, I haven't taken it apart to see why they've got this wire on it. It's definitely a three-phase wire. And my second thing is, I don't know a lot about electricity, but I have never heard of is it 480 or 460? It's hard to tell because it's scratched. Looks like 480. Never heard of 480 volt single phase. Not saying it doesn't exist, and again, I'm not an electrician or don't know that much about electricity, but I can wire stuff, but when it gets into the engineering aspect of electricity, I don't know that much about it. Maybe somebody can comment on it. I don't have any welding leads. I've got to go out and get a couple of welding leads. I'm going to take the cover off of this thing and figure out what the hell is going on with it. Was it hooked up to 480? Is that why that big lead is on there? I'm not really sure. Let me take the cover off of it. I'm not sure if it'll happen under this video, but I'll take the cover off of it and check it out, see what I can figure out. So I'm over here at the Lincoln Ideal Arc Welder. I pulled the cover plate off, kind of blew it out with the air hose. There was a lot of dust and dirt inside of it, mainly dust. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook it up. It is that red wire is not terminated inside of the welder, so it is single phase, 220 single phase. I'm going to hook it up, and I've got to get a couple of leads someplace. Let me see if I can find a couple of leads and hook it up and see if it works. If anybody knows the phase thing on the 480 volts, let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button. Subscribe.